Have you ever realized that the man confusing you the most might actually be the one feeling the most? What if the distance you're trying to understand isn't him pulling away, but him struggling with feelings that are deeper than he knows how to handle? Think about this for a second. Have you ever noticed how he comes back? Not in a loud or dramatic way, but just when you start to let go. Just when you begin to move on, he shows up again. That's not random. That's not timing. That's emotional pull. When someone feels something real, they don't fully walk away because something inside them keeps bringing them back, even when their mind is confused. Have you ever noticed him looking at you when he thought you weren't paying attention? That slight shift in his tone when he talks only to you. The unconscious mind doesn't lie. Even if his words are careful, something deeper inside him has already decided, and that decision somehow leads back to you. What if the man who sometimes confuses you with mixed signals is actually feeling more than he understands himself? Deep emotions don't always pass through logic first. They move quietly, revealing themselves in small actions we don't control. When something real begins, it doesn't always come with clarity. It often appears through the way someone reacts without thinking, through the things they do without even realizing why they are doing them. Many people mistake silence for a lack of feeling, when in truth, it can mean something much deeper. Real love rarely arrives loudly or with dramatic displays. Instead, it slowly changes the way someone sees the world. It shifts their focus, their energy, and even their habits without them fully noticing it. The man who seems distant at times, or suddenly close, may not even understand what is happening inside him. Love doesn't always show itself through clear words or perfect timing. Sometimes it enters quietly, through moments that seem small but carry meaning. It shows in the way he watches you when he thinks no one sees, and in how his behavior changes only around you. There is a part of the mind that acts before awareness catches up. When feelings are not yet understood, they still find a way to express themselves. They appear in actions, in attention, and in emotional reactions that feel natural and unplanned. If he hasn't fully realized what he feels, his deeper self may already be moving toward you. That is why his behavior can feel confusing at times. One moment he seems distant, and the next he feels close again. It's not always inconsistency. Sometimes it is the process of something real trying to become clear inside him, slowly forming into something he hasn't yet found words for. Before going further, pause for a moment and think about how this feels to you. If something inside you responds to these words, it's not random. It means there is a connection between what you feel and what you are hearing. When you recognize something within yourself, you begin to understand it more clearly. You don't need to force it or explain it right away. Just noticing it is enough. Sometimes awareness begins with a simple feeling that something makes sense, even if you cannot fully explain why. That quiet recognition is often the first step toward understanding what is really happening beneath the surface. So how can you truly know if he feels something real? What signs show that his deeper emotions are involved, even if he never says it directly? This is not about obvious gestures or simple patterns. It's about the subtle ways a person changes when something inside them is affected. Often, people wait for clear statements or big actions, but miss what matters most. The real sign is how someone's inner world shifts because of you. When something genuine begins, it doesn't follow a script. It changes a person from the inside, quietly and steadily, in ways that cannot be easily hidden. When a man is touched on a deeper level, his attention begins to change. Not in an obvious way, but in a subtle and natural way. He starts to notice things about you that others miss. He senses how you feel even when you say nothing is wrong. He notices small changes, like your tone, your mood, or even something different about your appearance. This kind of awareness doesn't come from trying to impress you. It comes from a deeper connection. His mind may not explain it, but his attention naturally moves toward you because something inside him is drawn there without effort. You may also notice that he brings you into conversations or thoughts without planning to. He might mention something you said earlier or ask about something that didn't seem important at the time. He might reach out without a clear reason, as if something inside him is guiding him. This is not about habit or routine. It's a quiet pull that he doesn't fully understand yet. It's not about need or dependence either. It's a sign that your presence has affected him in a way that continues even when you are not there. Something about you stays with him beyond the moment. Another clear sign is how he behaves differently around you. With most people, he may seem steady and predictable, but with you, something changes. He may become more open, more honest, or even slightly unsure of himself. This doesn't make him weaker, it makes him more real. When someone feels something deeply, they stop trying to control every part of how they appear. They become more natural, even if that means showing imperfections. If he lets his guard down only with you, it means he feels safe enough to be seen without pretending, and that is not something that happens easily. There is also a quiet sense of care that begins to show. It may not be loud or obvious, but it is consistent. He may check if you are okay, notice if you are tired, or think about your comfort in simple ways. This is not about control or obligation. It is something that grows naturally when someone becomes important. He may not even realize how much he is doing it. It comes from a place deeper than thought. When someone begins to care about your well-being without expecting anything in return, it means you have become part of their inner world in a meaningful way. There are moments when he doesn't need to speak for you to understand something is there. His presence alone feels different. The way he looks at you, the way he stands near you, or even the way he stays quiet with you can say more than words. That silence is not empty. It is full of awareness and connection. When someone feels deeply, they don't always try to fill every moment with talking. Sometimes just being there feels enough. And in that quiet space, you can sense something that goes beyond simple interaction. Watch how he reacts when others talk about you. If someone says something positive, you may notice a small change in his expression. If someone criticizes you, there may be a shift in how he looks or responds. These reactions often happen before he has time to think. They come from instinct, not from decision. Even if he hasn't clearly defined his feelings, his reactions show that you matter to him. That kind of response cannot be easily controlled because it comes from a deeper level of awareness that acts on its own. Effort is another sign that cannot be ignored. When someone feels something real, they make space for you in their life. It doesn't have to be dramatic. It shows in how he listens, how he remembers details, and how he adjusts his time. Even small actions like checking in or trying to improve after a mistake reveal something important. Effort is not forced when feelings are genuine. It happens naturally because the person wants to stay connected. When someone who is usually focused on themselves begins to include you without hesitation, it shows a shift inside them. You may also notice changes in him even when you are not around. He might seem more thoughtful, more distracted, or more aware of his own emotions. Something inside him is changing, and he is trying to understand it. He may not connect it directly to you, but your presence has already influenced his inner world. That kind of change doesn't happen quickly or clearly. It builds over time, quietly shaping how he thinks and feels. Even without direct interaction, you remain part of that process in a way he cannot easily explain. There is also a gradual transformation that happens over time. He may begin to let go of certain habits or ways of thinking that no longer feel right. He may open up more, share more, and become more willing to connect. This is not something he forces. It happens naturally as he adjusts to what he feels. He may begin to show parts of himself that he usually keeps hidden. These are not small details, but deeper aspects of who he is. When someone shares that level of honesty, it shows a level of trust that goes beyond surface connection. Another important sign is how he responds to your emotions. When you are happy, he feels it with you. When you are upset, he notices even if you try to hide it. He may not always know what to say, but his presence changes. He becomes more attentive, more careful, and more aware. This emotional connection doesn't come from obligation. It comes from feeling connected on a deeper level. Even without clear words, he wants to be there in some way because your emotional state matters to him more than he may admit. And perhaps the strongest sign appears when you are not there. If he still thinks about you, mentions you, or saves things to share with you later, it shows that your presence continues beyond physical moments. You become part of his thoughts and his daily life without effort. When someone carries you with them, even in your absence, it means the connection has moved beyond simple interaction. It has become something internal, something that stays with them regardless of distance or time. All of this is not about guessing or assuming. It is about noticing the quiet ways someone changes when something real begins to grow inside them. Love does not always come with clear answers or direct statements. It often begins with signs that are easy to overlook. But when you pay attention, those signs form a pattern that cannot be ignored. They show that something deeper is happening, even if it has not yet been fully understood or expressed. There comes a point where his need for your presence begins to feel natural to him, not as a routine, but as a sense of balance. He may not say it directly or use perfect words, but you can feel it in how he acts. Being around you feels important to him in a way he cannot fully explain. And that quiet need, that unspoken connection, is often the clearest sign that what he feels has already gone deeper than he realizes. But something in his energy shifts every time you are away from him. And even if he never tells you this directly, you begin to notice it in quiet ways that are hard to ignore. You see it in how restless he becomes when too much time passes without hearing from you, in how he appears again just when you were starting to let go of his presence. Somehow, any small reason becomes enough for him to return, even if only for a moment. This is not obsession, and it is not emotional dependence. It is something deeper, a real connection that grows from a place so deep that even he cannot fully explain why you stay on his mind the way you do. And this kind of experience makes sense when you understand that not everything inside us follows logic or timing. When a true feeling takes root in the deeper parts of the mind, it begins to shape thoughts, reactions, and decisions without needing permission from reason. One of the clearest ways this shows is in how he begins to value your opinion, even in areas of his life that do not directly involve you. He may start sharing his ideas, his plans, and ask what you think, not to impress you, but because something inside him genuinely wants to know if your paths align in some way. It is not a strategy or a calculated move. It is a quiet shift where you begin to take on a meaningful place in his emotional world. You might notice that he opens up about things he usually keeps hidden, his doubts, his fears, and the parts of himself he does not easily show. This does not mean he is looking for answers or trying to place responsibility on you. It means he feels safe enough to be real. He begins to lower the guard he shows to others, and in that space, you see a more honest version of who he truly is without effort or performance. When a man reaches that level of openness, the barriers that once defined his interactions begin to fade. Love is not built on perfect understanding or certainty. It grows in the ability to be seen without fear of judgment. The trust he places in you, even without realizing it fully, becomes one of the strongest signs of what he feels. It is not loud or dramatic, but it is steady and real. And in that quiet trust, something meaningful begins to take shape. Something that does not need to be forced or explained to exist. What confirms everything even more is how he begins to imagine his future. And somehow, you are already there in those thoughts. He may not directly say it, but you will hear it in small phrases, in the way he talks about places he wants to go or things he hopes to do someday. In those moments, you can feel that you are already included in his vision, even if he does not clearly express it. These small glimpses are not accidental. They are reflections of what is forming inside him, slowly becoming part of how he sees his life moving forward. You don't need to push him or ask for clear answers in those moments, because when something is truly real, it shows itself naturally in quiet and simple ways. If his actions, his attention, and his energy keep moving toward you without effort, then what you share is real, even if he doesn't fully understand it yet. You can see it in how he keeps coming back, how he stays connected, and how he continues to be present in your life. When something deep inside him has already chosen, everything else slowly begins to follow in its own time. As this grows, you'll notice a shift in how he treats you. Not through big gestures, but in how he starts to prioritize you, finds peace in your presence, and feels comfortable being himself without needing to pretend. Over time, this connection becomes clearer in small but meaningful ways. He begins to align with you, showing interest in what matters to you while still being himself. And he quietly supports and defends you even when you are not there. These signs should not be ignored, because they show something deeper forming beyond fear or overthinking. As everything comes together, you start to realize that real love is not loud or dramatic, but steady, calm, and consistent. Even in moments of doubt or distance, something continues to pull him back, like an unseen thread that does not break. And as this continues, you also begin to change. Not because of what he says, but because his presence becomes part of you, creating a quiet understanding that what you are experiencing is real, growing slowly until one day it becomes clear without needing to be spoken. In the end, what truly matters is not what he says, but what he consistently shows through his presence, his energy, and his quiet actions. Real love does not rush, does not force clarity, and does not need constant explanation. It reveals itself in the way someone keeps choosing you without making a scene, in how they return, in how they care, and in how they slowly make space for you in their inner world. When something genuine exists, it does not depend on perfect timing or perfect words. It grows naturally, shaping both of you from within in ways that feel calm, steady, and real. If you have seen these signs, if you have felt this quiet connection, trust that feeling. Because often the deepest truths are not spoken, they are sensed. Love in its purest form is not about intensity or noise, but about presence, consistency, and a bond that remains even in silence. And when a soul has already chosen, everything else unfolds in time, gently and naturally, until what was once unspoken becomes clear without needing to be said.